Hey, welcome back to another video. Today I just wanted to make another short video explaining something that I get a lot of questions about, and it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of information about stuff out there, but sometimes like the little detail stuff like nobody covers, and then you go to buy things and it's really confusing, you don't know what to buy. So I've been thinking about a lot of these little videos to make just to kind of clear up my thoughts and give you some stuff that I've seen over the years, especially with tuning a lot of these Nissan platform things. Today the thing I wanted to cover most was fuel injectors, especially on the early model like 350Z stuff, but even on the 370Z a lot of this applies. The Nissan computer is like super tricky and not all injectors are kind of the same, so I just want to share a few things. I got some notes and we'll just kind of go over what I got. Okay, the first thing that's kind of different like on a Nissan versus most other cars is in the factory computer program, like the way that Nissan calibrated it, there's like numeric limitations on certain things. So like if you get an injector that's too big, there's a point where you reach the last number and you can't calibrate farther. So like there are ways to tune around this, but in general it becomes a pretty big problem. The other thing is fuel injectors, you know, they have like a latency time or an amount of time it takes to fire the injector for it to open and close at a given voltage, right? Well, Nissan also made this table not very editable. It's a linear curve only. You only have control of just your offset and your 14 volt number. So like when the car is running at 14 volts, which is most of your driving, you know, you can program for that, you know, situation. But on your cranking, whether it's hot or cold start, your battery voltage might be anywhere from 12 to maybe even 11 and a half or whatever. And it's very hard to program for that unless coincidentally you have an injector that has a similar latency curve as like the factory fuel injectors, like a Nissan GTR one or something like that. So it took me like a while to kind of figure out some of this stuff. In my 350Z right now, I currently have just like a 1100cc injector that I happened to find, and I had very limited data from the manufacturer. I was able to get the data for 14 volts and the size of the injector, and that's about it. And this is kind of where my slippery slope of trying to figure all this out came into play. When you get a really expensive injector like Injector Dynamics, they have like tons of data, so you can program as close as possible to every situation. And a lot of the injectors, coincidentally, because they pick very good options for the injector body, have a very linear curve which works well on a Nissan. So not every injector, but definitely like the 1050X and a few of their other ones work really, really well. That brings me to another situation. 1200 cc's, somewhere in that range. If you go to like edit some of these tables by percentage, you have to raise or lower a percentage to get your injector, you know, to work correctly. And going from a 350cc injector, whatever the stock one is, up to about 1200 cc's, that value of change is like 70 or 80%, and at that point you hit like a numeric block. So that's kind of the end of it. What else? Oh yes, Nissans obviously don't have a fuel return line. So a lot of people, no big deal, they put a fuel return line in, put a pressure regulator in the engine bay, that's fine. Let me explain that because a lot of people don't quite understand how that works. If you're running a boosted car, every time you go up and boost, you're putting, you know, more pressure in the engine, which makes the injector spray a little less effectively by like whatever PSI. So if you have a return line, the return line gives the regulator an option to raise your fuel pressure to compensate for boost, which would keep your, you know, your fuel pressure essentially even through the RPM range, and your, say, 1000cc injector stays at 1000 cc of flow potential, okay? So if you don't have a return line, every time you go up like say 10 psi, you might lose like 10 or more % of your fuel injector size. So like on a 1000cc injector at 10 psi, you might only really have a 900cc injector, or even smaller, it just depends. This becomes very demanding on your fuel pump as well, and obviously you guys know it's not that easy to modify and put really big pumps in the basket in the back of the 350Z, so you know, keep that in mind. Return lines are super awesome if you can do one. I don't have one on my car currently, but I kind of had a general idea of the window that I needed to hit for 400 horsepower, and I knew that if I had a AEM 340 pump, and I had the size of injector, which is 1100 cc. I was kind of at the limit of my numeric value. That those two in combination would just get me to the number I needed, no problem. So I have a couple recommendations to try to help you guys like not really get into any problems. Thing number one, just talk to whoever's tuning your car and see what injector they've programmed and what works well for them, and if that's adequate for what you're doing, maybe go with that, okay? Thing number two, hopefully you do not need bigger than a 1200cc injector. A 1200cc injector with a fuel return line should get you a ton of horsepower. I don't imagine most of you would ever need more than that. I think it's like 700-800 horsepower range. That's a lot. So there's a very limited situation where people need to go over that, but absolutely, in my opinion, a 1000cc injector, I mean, that's kind of like a good stopping point. I happen to find an 1100cc, it's working fine, but definitely like, looked over my tune file, and some of the data that I had to change only has like maybe 3% adjustment left at 1100 cc's. Like 1200 completely would max out, be off the charts, and I wouldn't be able to calibrate correctly. So stay under 1200 cc's, absolutely. Add a fuel return line if you can. A more expensive injector with better data is always going to be better, and if you happen to look at the latency chart, if you can find one that's very linear like the Nissans are, then you probably have a better run of things, because obviously you can't really program the driving range, the 14 volt range, and the like 11 and 12 volt range separately. So you have to have one that's a pretty linear curve. Expensive injectors, a lot of them have a pretty linear operation. So what else? And that might be it. So basically, stay under like 1200 cc's. Add a return line if possible. A good injector with really good data, like an Injector Dynamics or something that's tested on Nissan, is great. Always check with your tuner. And that's basically all I got. So I hope that helps some of you guys out. If you have any questions, post them down below, because I don't know, like I see almost all of these comments anyways. And if you're like, hey, what about this injector? What about that injector? I can just peek at them real quick and let you know if I've ever used them, if they work well. So I hope that helps all of you guys, especially the ones that are going boost. Pick a better injector. Yeah, let me know. All right, see you guys in the next video.